Hey guys, tonight we're going to slow things down and sit with the story that matters. This is the story of a woman raised in comfort, shaped by legacy, and brought to her knees not by scandal or crime, but by quiet betrayal in an empty stretch of road. It's also about a stranger calm and unassuming who doesn't rescue her in the way she expects, but shows her something more lasting. Before we begin, please like the video and subscribe, but only if stories like this truly move you. Comment your city ball in the time you're watching. Now close your eyes or don't, it's your choice. Either way, you're about to witness something real. The Colorado sun presses down with a kind of dry finality, its heat not scorching, but ancient, as if it has watched 1,000 stories of loss play out on this very desert road. Ava Callahan steps out of her white Porsche heels, sinking slightly into the cracked roadside dirt phone, held high, blinking in disbelief. No service. Of course not. Her signal had disappeared miles ago, just like everything else lately. Power, status, the illusion of security, all gone, dissolved into the same air now shimmering on the horizon. Her engine gave up without warning. Her company, her late father's life work, had done the same, though that collapse had come wrapped in polite language and a smiling knife. Gregory Shaw, her father's longtime partner, had stared across the boardroom table with his perfected look of regret and said, "This is a strategic transition, Ava. You're still part of the story, just not in the same seat." No voice in the room had spoken in her defense, not one. Now she stands alone, literally in the middle of nowhere, watching the waves of heat rise off the asphalt. For a long time, no one comes, just wind and dust, until he appears. He walks like someone used to moving through silence. A young man, maybe 20, tall and lean with skin the color of cedar bark and a faded work shirt rolled up at the sleeves. His eyes meet hers without pause. Steady, clear, kind. He doesn't comment on the car or her clothes or her obvious discomfort, just walks up, slowly rests his hands on his hips, and says with a hint of dry humor, "Guess you've been here a while." Ava stiffens, automatically bracing. She's learned to expect the worst from strangers, especially when she's vulnerable. But there's something different about him, not just the calm or the ease, but the absence of agenda. "I'm Jordan," he says casually, crouching beside the tire, which by now has clearly given up the ghost. "Mind if I take a look?" She hesitates, then nods. From his backpack comes a weathered toolkit and a pair of gloves so worn they look like they've patched more fences and changed more lives than she can count. Jordan works quickly, cleanly, doesn't fill the silence with chatter, doesn't look at her like she's anything other than a person stuck in the desert needing help. Ava watches him, unsettled by the way her world has inverted. She spent years surrounded by people who bowed to her name but never looked her in the eye like this. There's no flattery here, no interest in who she is or was, just service, just respect, the kind that doesn't have to announce itself. "You do this often?" she asked, her voice breaking the stillness. Jordan shrugs. "Uncle used to run a garage in town. Taught me what I know. Fixing things gives me peace." She nods but doesn't reply. Because the truth is, nothing gives her peace anymore. Not since the board meeting, not since the glossy magazine features dried up, not since the silence from old friends grew louder than any insult. Not since the foundation her whole life was built on cracked clean through and nobody even flinched. When the job is done, Jordan stands, wipes his hands, and offers a simple, "You're good to go." She reaches for her wallet. Instinct, reflex, gratitude in transactional form. But he gently lifts his hand, refusing. "I didn't stop to earn something," he says. "Just glad I could help." Ava freezes. Her entire world has been built on trade, on performance and payoff. And here under this blinding sun, a man she's never met has shown her something that no executive, no partner, no investor ever has: kindness without a contract. As he picks up his bag and begins to walk down the road, she finds herself watching him, her lips parted slightly as if to call him back. But she doesn't, not yet, because something has shifted, something she doesn't quite understand. A part of her long buried beneath corporate armor and curated appearances has cracked open just wide enough to feel the weight and warmth of something real. She doesn't know it yet, but today wasn't a breakdown. It was the first breath of a new beginning, because not everything broken stays broken forever. The next morning, Ava Callahan sits in the corner of a mountain cafe stirring a cup of tea that's long since gone cold. The quiet hum of conversation around her fades as she stares out the window, watching the Colorado landscape roll beneath a blanket of early sun. Something is stirring inside her, something she hasn't felt in years. Not drive, not ambition. Something quieter, something clearer. She can still see Jordan in her mind. The way he wiped his hands on his jeans without needing applause. The look in his eyes, not dismissive, not impressed, just present. That memory loops in her chest like a pulse, steady and insistent. Her world used to be meetings, mergers, million-dollar contracts. But none of that comes to her now. Just the way he said, fixing things gives me peace. Ava leans forward, opens the notebook beside her, and writes two words. Build something. She doesn't yet know what it means, but the pen keeps moving. She writes phrases she hasn't dared admit aloud. Second chances. Dignity. Not charity opportunity. She writes until her hand aches. 2 days later, she drives down the same stretch of highway where they met. She's traded her designer blouse for a plain white tee and jeans that still carry a faint price tag crease. Her Porsche gleams as always, but it feels less like armor, now more like just a car. She parks in the same spot and waits, unsure what she's even expecting. And then, as if summoned by the wind, he appears again. Jordan walking up the road, toolbox slung over one shoulder. When he sees her, his eyebrows lift slightly, not with alarm but curiosity. You again? He says, a smile tugging at one corner of his mouth. Ava steps out. I figured I owed you a proper thank you. Jordan raises an eyebrow. You came all the way out here for that? She shakes her head. I came because I need to ask you something. Her hands tremble slightly, but her voice doesn't. What if we built something together? He doesn't laugh, but he does take a beat before replying. Built what? She hesitates, then tells him. About the idea that took root in that cafe. About a center part trade school, part safe haven for kids who get passed over, who never get invited to internships, or groomed for tech jobs, or seen for their potential. You said you like fixing things, she says. I think I'm finally ready to stop patching broken systems and actually build something that matters. Jordan listens, and when she finishes, he just nods once. Sounds like a good place to start. They meet again the next day, then the next. Ava visits Jordan's small workshop tucked behind an old gas station on the edge of town. She watches the way he works, patient, methodical, exacting. He watches her too, the way she listens when he talks about materials and space and light, the way her eyes light up when he mentions teaching. Soon sketches fill her notebooks. Layouts. Supply lists, lists of names, youth centers, trade, programs, old contacts from, when her name still held weight, but it's not the name she's using now. It's the work, the idea, the cause. When they meet with a retired contractor to talk about the land Ava's quietly purchased for the center, the man assumes Jordan is the driver. Should I wait outside while you two talk business? He asks Jordan. Jordan doesn't flinch. You'll want to talk to both of us. We're partners. Ava watches how calm he stays, how used to it he must be, and something sharp twists in her chest. But Jordan only sets down his coffee and adds, we're building something real. The contractor eventually apologizes awkwardly, but the sting lingers longer than the handshake. It isn't the first time. It won't be the last. Ava's world had once been perfectly polished boardrooms where her name bought her deference until it didn't. Now in these quiet rooms where drywall dust clings to her boots and coffee is brewed on hot plates, she feels more seen than she ever did at the top. They begin to call the project The Haven. Not because it's clever or brandable, but because that's what they want it to be. A place where a 17-year-old girl with calloused hands can learn electrical wiring. A boy who's been told he's not leadership material can lead a project team. Where nobody looks at you and wonders where you came from before they decide if you matter. One evening, Ava sits on the hood of the car that first broke down, staring at the stars. Jordan hands her a bottle of water and sits beside her. They're quiet for a long time. You ever wonder, she says softly, what we'd be doing right now if that tire hadn't popped? Jordan chuckles. You'd be 5 exits past me. I'd still be fixing the same things. She nods slowly, her voice almost a whisper. But maybe nothing would have actually changed. He glances over. Funny how breakdowns work sometimes. They both sit in silence. The wind moves gently across the desert, carrying with it something unspoken but understood. Ava doesn't know how the world will receive what they're building, But in this moment, beside a man who asks for nothing but gives everything, she knows one thing for certain. Not everyone who loses everything is broken. Some are finally free to begin again. Because when your new truth collides with old circles, not everyone will applaud. The invitation arrives in a thick cream-colored envelope, monogrammed, gold-trimmed, unmistakably elite. The Aspen Winter Gala, hosted annually by Colorado's wealthiest power players, including the same board members who once called Ava a visionary leader. Now they simply call her absent. Ava stares at the envelope in silence for a long time. Jordan notices. "You going?" She doesn't answer right away. Her voice is tight when it finally comes. "They invited me." Probably expecting me to beg my way back into relevance. Jordan shrugs unbothered. "You don't owe them anything." "No," she says quietly. "But maybe I owe myself something." She asks him to come with her. He hesitates. His face doesn't change, but she senses the pause. "It's not my scene," he says simply. "I know," Ava replies, "but it would mean a lot." So they go. The mansion sparkles. Chandeliers hum. Designer gowns glide across marble floors like practice performances. Ava's tailored dress is elegant but understated. She doesn't want to play their game, but she knows how to survive in it. Jordan, beside her in a crisp blazer and black slacks, walks with quiet poise. But Ava feels the room shift as they enter. Not loudly, not obviously, just the slight glances, the whispered tilts of champagne flutes, polite smiles that don't reach the eyes. Gregory Shaw is across the room almost immediately, salt and pepper hair gleaming, his smirk as sharp as the part in his perfect suit. He cuts through the crowd like a man born to own it. And in some ways he always has. "Ava," he says with mock warmth, placing a hand on her shoulder, then turning to Jordan with studied curiosity. "And this must be your colleague." There's a slight emphasis on the last word. Measured, performed, enough to make sure the people around them register it. Jordan meets his gaze evenly. "Jordan Hayes," Gregory replies, "the mechanic." He turns back to Ava. "Well, I can't say I'm surprised. You always had a creative eye for talent." A few guests chuckle softly nearby. It stings more than Ava expected. Not because of the insult, but because she recognizes the game. This is how they do it. Mock without malice. Cut without blood. All under the guise of civility. She wants to speak, to push back. But her tongue sticks to the roof of her mouth. Her silence is a reflex. A muscle memory built from years in boardrooms, where power meant poise and poise meant endurance. She stands still, says nothing, and Jordan, though composed, feels it. Later, as the evening stretches on, the whispers grow louder. One woman clutching a glass of rosé eyes, Ava, and murmurs to her friend, "I suppose dating the help is the new philanthropy." Ava hears it, clearly. But again, she says nothing. Jordan is across the room, standing near a window watching her. He's not angry yet, but the disappointment settles in his shoulders, slow and heavy. He had expected more. Not from them, from her. When Ava finally joins him on the terrace, the cold night air sobers her faster than champagne ever could. She wraps her arms around herself. "I'm sorry," she whispers. Jordan doesn't turn around. "For what?" She hesitates. "I didn't expect them to act like this." "No," he says, "but you expected me to endure it." That lands hard. She tries to explain. "This world, it's brutal. I've spent my life learning how to survive it." Jordan finally turns to face her. His voice is low, firm, but not cruel. "And I haven't." Silence stretches between them longer than either wants. He looks at her not with anger, but with pain. The kind that comes when someone you trusted forgets how to carry your name when it matters most. "You asked me to come here, Ava," he says quietly. "But when they came for me with their smiles and mockery, you vanished." "I froze," she admits. Her voice breaks. "I didn't mean to." "But you did," he says, cutting gently. "You didn't stand with me. And for people like me, that silence is the loudest betrayal." He walks away. Back inside, the laughter continues. The music swells. Gregory raises a toast and the room responds like a trained chorus. Ava stays on the terrace alone, the mountain air sinking into her bones. She doesn't return to the gala. She doesn't say goodbye to anyone. She walks straight to her car, pulls off her heels, and drives barefoot through the dark, trying to outrun the sound of her own silence. At home, her inbox is flooded with photos from the night, some captioned, some leaked. One of her beside Jordan with the headline, "Former Tech Heiress Makes Unlikely Appearance with New Protege." She closes the laptop without a word. But in her heart, something is roaring, something that can't be swallowed again, because quiet regret can still become a battle cry. The ballroom at the Denver Technology Forum hums with soft anticipation. It's not the usual kind, no product launches, no startup reveals. Something different's in the air. There are murmurs about Ava Callahan, that she's attending, that she's speaking, that after everything, the boardroom exile, the gala embarrassment, the press, she's stepping back into the light. No one knows what she plans to say, and that's exactly why they're here. Backstage, Ava stands alone. Her hands are steady, her breathing is not. The screen above the stage flashes her name, still recognizable, still weighty, but now missing its old title. No CEO, no Callahan Tech, just her. Across the room, hidden in the shadows of the back row, Jordan sits arms folded. He hadn't wanted to come. In fact, he almost didn't. But when Ava called, her voice calm and stripped of everything polished, she said, "You don't have to trust me, Jordan. Just see me." So he came. On stage, a coordinator signals. Ava steps into the spotlight, not with practiced elegance, but with something quieter resolve. The applause is polite, uncertain, polished. She doesn't reach for the cue cards. She doesn't glance at the monitor. Instead, she places both palms flat on the podium and begins. "I'm not here today to pitch you. I'm not launching a new product. I'm not asking for capital or applause." Her voice is even, low, clear. She pauses, scanning the crowd, locking eyes with the front row people who once called her brilliant, but stood silent when she fell. "I'm here," she says, "because I lost everything I thought mattered. My position, my reputation, my circle." A subtle stir in the room. Executives shift in their chairs. Someone coughs. But that loss was a gift, she continues, because it stripped away the noise, and it made room for something I never knew I was missing. She breathes, glances to the back row, finds him. "I met someone, not a venture partner, not a PR play, just a human being who helped me when I had nothing to offer. And he didn't ask for anything in return." People start whispering. Cameras click. But Ava doesn't look away. Jordan Hayes is the kind of man this world needs more of. Not because he fits your vision of leadership, but because he leads with kindness, with patience, with truth. She lets that sink in, feels the tension rise. And I failed him. There's a hush now, a real one. Not discomfort gravity. I brought him into my world without protecting him from it. I let silence do harm. And I am here in front of all of you to name that failure and to say I love him, not because of what he does for me, but because of who he is. Gasps ripple through the room like broken glass. The applause doesn't come yet. Instead, there's a beat of stunned stillness. Reporters scramble for quotes. Gregory Shaw, seated in the center row, goes pale. His jaw tightens. This was not part of the script. Ava steps back slightly from the mic. Her voice lowers. "I walked away from wealth, from safety, from every comfort I used to believe mattered. And I would do it again, because it gave me a chance to build something real." She gestures to a slide on the screen, a photo of a modest building under construction, dusty but alive with movement. Teens with tool belts. Jordan holding blueprints. Ava handing out paintbrushes. Laughter mid-motion. "This is the haven," she says. "It's what we're building. A place where young people learn skills, yes, but more than that, where they learn they belong, that their past doesn't define their future." And then, with more fire than she's shown all morning, she adds, "And I will not let anyone, any system, any circle, any name undermine that." This time, the applause is not polite. It's thunderous. Jordan stands in the back, frozen, his face unreadable, but his eyes are wet. Ava finishes her speech with a soft, final line. "Some people call this reckless. I call it redemption. You can decide for yourself." She walks off stage without bowing, without waiting. The crowd is on its feet, some in admiration, some in shock, and some, like Gregory Shaw, tight-lipped with fury. Backstage, Ava leans against the wall, breath finally catching up to her. Then she hears it. Footsteps. She turns. It's Jordan. For a moment, they just look at each other. You didn't have to do that, he says. I know, she replies. His voice lowers. But you did, she nods. Because it was the truth. He takes a step closer. And because you meant it, every word. Jordan searches her face. Whatever pain was there before is still present, but softened, now touched by the possibility of healing. I still don't like galas, he mutters. Ava lets out a short laugh. Me neither. He reaches for her hand. And in that one small gesture, everything unspoken between them is answered. Outside, the headlines are already spreading. Ava Callahan's stunning confession. Heir trades fortune for purpose. Scandal or salvation. But none of it matters. Because while the crowd may scatter, true voices will rise. In the quiet heart of a Colorado neighborhood that once held more boarded-up shops than open doors, a new rhythm takes shape. It begins not with fanfare, but with the scrape of shovels, breaking ground, and the steady knock of hammers against fresh timber. The Haven, once just sketches in Ava Callahan's notebook, and conviction in her voice, now rises from the earth, one wall at a time. Jordan Hayes is there every morning before the sun crests the hills. His work gloves are already worn through at the knuckles, but he refuses to replace them. They've built more than walls. They've built trust. Every screw, every beam, every lesson he teaches to the young men and women who gather here, some from shelters, some from broken homes, some just tired of being overlooked, carries a quiet power. Not pity, not charity, just skill offered with respect. Ava works beside him. The dust clings to her jeans now. Her hair, once set for cameras, is pulled back in a no-nonsense knot. She learns to mix cement, to read blueprints, to laugh at her own clumsy hammering. But more than that, she learns to listen, to ask questions without leading, to sit quietly when someone needs space, not answers. She is not a benefactor here. She is a student every day. The community starts to notice. First, a few curious neighbors drift by. Then local shop owners offer supplies. A retired carpenter volunteers 2 afternoons a week. A mother brings sandwiches for the crew. Soon there are paint cans donated by a local hardware store, books sent in boxes with no return address, and teenagers who show up not because they have to, but because they want to. In the evenings, Ava and Jordan sit on the steps of the growing building, watching kids play with scraps of lumber like puzzle pieces. Sometimes they talk, sometimes they don't. But the silence is full now, no longer broken by unspoken things. One night, as the center's main hall nears completion, a young girl approaches them. She's about 11 with braids and a shy smile. Her name is Tessa, and she's been helping Jordan clean paintbrushes for weeks. She holds out a drawing, a crayon sketch of the building with Haven written above it in careful block letters. Inside, she's drawn people, brown, black, white, all smiling. I made this for you, she says quietly. Jordan kneels to take it. Ava crouches beside him. It's beautiful, she whispers. Tessa beams. I want to be an architect someday. Ava blinks away tears. You already are. Moments like this come more often now. Not dramatic, not viral, just moments. A boy who once refused to make eye contact now leads a carpentry demo. A girl who never spoke above a whisper volunteers to paint the welcome sign. They're not transformed overnight, but they are transforming. And Ava, she's changed too. Not in ways the press can chart. She still gets emails, offers to speak, cautious invitations to return to corporate life. She deletes them all. Not out of bitterness, out of clarity. Because this mess of sawdust, laughter, vulnerability, and quiet grit is what purpose feels like. It doesn't sparkle, it steadies. One afternoon, as the final coat of paint dries and the ribbon is tied across the double doors, Jordan pulls Ava aside. He's holding something in his hand, a plaque. Simple wood. No gold, no engraving. Just 3 carved words, love builds here. They hang it above the front entrance just before the grand opening. That evening, the community gathers. Kids in clean clothes, parents with cautious hope in their eyes, former skeptics, new believers. Jordan stands at the front, unpolished and honest. I never thought I'd stand in front of a crowd like this, he says. But I know what it's like to grow up being told you don't belong anywhere. So if this place stands for anything, it's that nobody gets left behind. Ava steps forward. Her voice shakes, but she lets it. I thought I had power when I had wealth. I thought I had status when I sat in corner offices. But I never understood strength until I built something with my own hands. Until I stood beside people who saw me, not for my last name, but for the work I was willing to do. The crowd falls silent, and then the clapping begins. Slow, then all at once, thunderous. Behind them, Gregory Shaw watches from across the street. His suit is impeccable. His car idles with the air running. His company has launched a new app that morning, but it barely trended. The media isn't here for him anymore. Not because he lost power, but because something more powerful happened somewhere else. He turns away, inside the haven. Ava walks down the hall as the lights come on for the first time. Soft yellow warmth. She watches as kids dart through the space, pointing at shelves they helped build. One points to the wall. "That's mine," he says. "I drilled that." She smiles. Jordan finds her a moment later. They're already asking when the next session starts. "Then I guess we'd better keep building." He nods, then pulls something from his back pocket. A letter. "This came today, from someone named Mia." Ava takes it gently. It's written in pencil block letters, uneven but clear. "Dear Miss Ava and Mr. Jordan, I don't have much, but I saw your story and wanted you to know. You made me believe I can be something too. Please never stop what you're doing. The world needs more places like yours. Love, Mia." Ava closes her eyes, emotion washing through her. When she opens them, she looks at Jordan and says with quiet certainty, "This is what legacy actually looks like." And in that moment, neither of them needs to say anything else. Because what began with a breakdown on a sun-baked road now stands as a monument to purpose. Not wealth, not fame, but love. The kind that rebuilds people, not just places. And as long as hands are willing and hearts remain open, they'll keep building together. Sometimes the strongest foundations are laid not in glass towers or gilded boardrooms, but in the dust, in the silence, in the aftermath of failure. Ava Callahan began her story with everything except the one thing that would make her whole. And it wasn't until she lost her position, her circle, and even her voice that she began to find her purpose. It wasn't easy. She faltered. She failed someone she cared for. And in doing so, she faced the cost of silence. But she chose to rise not with noise, but with truth. She reclaimed her life not by rebuilding her title, but by building something real. And Jordan Hayes, he never asked for a spotlight. He never demanded recognition. But his dignity, quiet, steady, and deeply human, became the very thing that challenged everything Ava thought she knew. Together, they didn't just create a building. They created a new path. One paved with second chances, honest work, and unconditional worth. Maybe that's the lesson tonight. That in a world rushing for prestige and polish, what we're really looking for is something slower, something lasting. Maybe we don't need to be perfect. We just need to keep showing up, hands open, hearts ready, willing to build.